Welcome to Intentional Excellence, the podcast where we elevate your life through mindset, resilience, and personal growth. I'm your host, Candice Ruggiero, speaker, member of Two Speakers Bureaus, podcast host of Candice Ruggiero Love Speaks live show, aspiring author, educator, and entrepreneur. Today, we're diving to a deeply personal and important conversation: the lost child, finding yourself beyond the past. You see, many people who have experienced childhood trauma struggle with their sense of identity, feeling lost or disconnected from themselves. But what if instead of letting our past define us, we learn to use it as fuel for transformation? Our guest today is Karen Dwyer-Tesoriero.
Tesoriero. Very good.
All right. Please, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
And and I practiced that even before you came in, and I still missed it.
That's
All
okay.
right.
That's okay. It's a hard
My,
name.
my apologies. All right. So Karen knows this journey well. She is a licensed psychotherapist in New York and approved for telehealth in Florida, specializing in complex PTSD or CPTSD. Karen helps adults heal from past traumas, particularly those rooted in childhood abuse, neglect, or relationship wounds. Having experienced CPTSD herself, Karen understands firsthand how trauma shapes negative self talk and self worth. Beyond trauma work, she supports women in major life transitions, such as divorce or empty nesting, guiding them to rediscover their identity, build new connections, and embrace self care. And as a single mother of two special needs boys, Karen has faced and overcome immense personal and financial hardships. After her marriage collapsed under financial turmoil, she found herself fighting to stay afloat, managing debt, raising her children alone, and struggling to reclaim her own identity. Instead of letting adversity define her, she rebuilt her life, grew her career, and lost over 100 pounds, emerging stronger and more self assured. Her story is proof that even in aftermath of trauma, healing and transformation are possible. Karen, welcome to Intentional Excellence podcast. I'm so honored to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me and for that beautiful introduction. you
Oh
you
my
framed
goodness.
it so nicely.
No, I was reading it. It was giving me goosebumps. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like all the life challenges that we go through in
Yeah.
life. The amazing part is meeting you in your fullest potential. Like after overcoming all this, like that always gives me a like aha moment. I'm like, I'm just so honored to have you here. And I know
Thank
that
you.
my viewers will learn so many things from you. And I
Sure.
can't wait to start. Now, my podcast is worldwide. I'm in Florida, America. Where are you from, Karen?
I'm in New York.
Okay, I lived in New York for 20 years in Westchester County. Where are
Oh,
you?
nice. I am born in Brooklyn. I was there
Ah,
until I was an early teenager, and then my
right.
parents moved me to Staten Island. So I have like a Brooklyn, Staten Island accent thing
I
happening. Everyone
love
keeps
that.
telling me.
I remember driving to Brooklyn only twice in my life while I was there to purchase my teacup puppy Yorkies. All right, don't get mad at me. I know some people are like, why are you buying? No, but I did go there
Yeah.
twice to I because they have this teacup Yorkies at that time.
Yep.
Though I can only handle small puppies at that time. I was baby steps for me.
Absolutely.
All right. So, thank you again for being here, and let's start. Okay. All right. So, Karen, many people who experience childhood trauma or neglect often struggle with their sense of identity,
Mhm.
feeling lost or disconnected from themselves. Now, can you share a pivotal moment from your past that made you feel like a lost child, and maybe share how did it shape your sense of identity, Karen?
Oh, there have been so many different incidences of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I grew up getting a lot of negative messages about myself. And keep in mind, when we talk about complex PTSD, some of those messages are spoken and some of them are unspoken. So
Okay.
oftentimes it could come across in little things like, oh, your sibling did so well when they had that teacher. That implies, well, you're not doing as well, or maybe like
Yes.
you're less than. It's little things like that that parents say in passing that really resonates with the child and resonates with the child and then influences their sense of self. And those messages is where that disconnect that you're talking about come from. So for me, in my childhood, some of the messages I got were that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't smart enough, like little things like that
Was it
that I
coming from your
carried.
family? Was it coming from
Yeah,
your
just
family?
in very indiscreet ways. My brother, when he was in kindergarten, got tested in school and was found to be a genius.
Okay.
So here it is, like this super uber kid, and it was
Yes.
like, your brother's so smart and you're so emotional. Like there was always
Oh, yeah, I'm
that.
sorry.
So yeah, it was like emotions aren't good, but your brother being smart was. So it wasn't intentional. My parents weren't being like, wow, you're real dumb. They were just like, your brother's so smart, your
Right.
brother's, and he is. I'm not taking
Yes.
that away from him. But the message that I got was I wasn't as smart.
Yes.
So it played out in a lot of different ways for me. Like for instance, when I went to college and decided I was going to be a social worker and a therapist and I had to go on for my master's, I applied to all different schools. And that was a nerve-wracking experience because I applied to 2 Ivy League schools. And
Okay.
I was like, they're never going to accept me. They're never going to accept me. And then they did. And I was like, what? Why would they accept me? I'm not
Wow.
the smart one. I'm not the only smart people go to
Well,
those
did your
schools.
brother get accepted as well? I'm sure he did.
He didn't go on for his master's degree, so that's
Okay.
like a
Okay.
little
So
thing
this
that
was
we joke
masters.
around
Okay.
with. So um really where it hit me the most, where it was life changing, is
Right.
I was married at the time, and I had just found out my ex-husband, now he's my husband then, had put us in a really bad financial
Okay.
situation.
Right.
We had 14 months of missed mortgage payments. Our accounts were seized by the
Were you
courts. So we had
aware?
no, I had no clue this was happening. I literally intercepted a call. I literally intercepted a call from a bill collector, and I happened to answer the phone. And you know how bill collectors could be? They're a little
Yes.
bit rough and
Right.
aggressive. And I was like, please bear with me. I don't know what you're talking about. Please explain this to me like I'm 5.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
the woman was like, how do you not know that you haven't paid your mortgage in 14 months? And when she said that to me, I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? I was working full time. I was
Right.
starting my private practice, so I
Right.
wasn't home at night. And I was trusting my husband at the time to do those
Right.
things, to pay the
Right.
bills and make sure everything was taken care of. So I was wrong for not staying on top of those things, but I
Right.
had no clue about them. So all this was going on. I felt we needed money. And in August of 2014, I had stopped working full time to concentrate on my business.
All
And
right.
from August to December of 2014 is when all of this came out. And then
Okay.
in December of 2014, he lost his job. So I went into spiral mode and I started applying to jobs everywhere, social
Yeah.
work jobs everywhere. And I went on a job interview, and I was coming home on the Staten Island Ferry, and it hit me. And I'm sitting on the Staten Island Ferry, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I applying for these jobs? Why am I going on these interviews? It's the week between Christmas and New Year's. I'd rather be home with my kids.
Right.
What am I
Right.
doing right now? And I thought to myself on the ferry, I was like, why aren't you concentrating on your private practice? Like, just build your
Okay.
practice.
Okay.
You'll be able to get past everything. And I was like, if you were a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, nobody would expect you to give up your private practice and go
Right.
work for
Right.
somebody again. So
Right.
why is a therapist with a master's degree? Like, why would you not? And the thoughts in my head were, well, I'm not good enough. Like, no one's going to want to work with me. Like,
Yeah.
why? And then I was like, wait, let's do a reality check. You already have a private practice. You already
Okay.
have a base of clients. You've worked in the field for 20 years at this point,
Right.
and your clients have always been engaged in the process. You've always gotten positive feedback. So why would you think that's not going to
Right.
translate
Right. Right.
into your own business? Like, you have that history of doing good work. Why
Right.
would you think you can't do that for yourself? And it was on that ferry ride that I came to the conclusion, this is my negative self of you're not being good enough
Yes.
and you're not smart
Yes.
enough holding me back. And if
Because
I
of
just
your childhood
childhood
experience.
stuff,
Yes.
then if I just do what I know I could do and do the things that people have given me feedback that I am smart and I am good
Right.
at what I do, that I can be successful. So I went home that day and my parents knew everything that was going on and they called me like, how was your interview? And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
They're
And they were
probably
like,
like,
what?
what is, why are you, what's, you're crazy.
Yeah,
They're
they were
probably
like,
like,
they're giving you a job and like, you know, like, why don't you take it? It's the most money you ever made and they're giving you a good salary. And I was like, I think I could do better on my own. And I want to
right.
try it on my own first. And I'm going to get me out of this financial mess. I'm
Wow.
going to get out of it. But I was like, I am not going to turn around and go back to agency work. And so through that, I knew at that point my marriage was over. I had started consulting with a divorce attorney, and my divorce attorney was like, you need to file bankruptcy.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I was like, I am absolutely not doing bankruptcy. I said, I will pay these debts off myself. I was like, I'm not doing
Wow.
that. And then through the divorce process, we had to sell our marital home with all this stuff going on. And my real estate attorney was like, okay, we got to hook you up with a bankruptcy lawyer, and that's your next step. And I was like, I'm absolutely not doing that. I was like, I will pay these debts off no matter what I have to do, no matter
Wow.
how much I have to work. I'm paying these debts off. So through the divorce process, we divvied up all the debts. I was responsible for more than half by this
Of
point because
course. Yeah.
during the separation process, I had been paying things off that now were not part of the divorce
Right.
agreement. So I paid off more than half of the debt that we had, and I paid off every cent just by working and getting through it and raising my kids. And that was in 2014. Our divorce wasn't finalized until 2019. It took us 5 years to get divorced. It was
Wow.
incredible. But in two,
Wait, that why? Is it because you weren't on the same terms? I mean,
it was
5 years.
because in New York, you have to be separated from each other for a year in order to file for the divorce.
Okay,
But
so
he
that's
had
already
no
1 year.
job.
Okay.
We had no money, so we couldn't separate.
Okay. All
So
right.
I
And
had told him, I was like, we're getting divorced. So he went to go live in one part of the house. I was in another part of the house.
okay.
Like, we were trying to separate as much as we could.
Okay.
Then it was all the debt and everything. Like, we were just trying to get the debt paid down. I was trying to get the debt paid down. And then once we came to the agreement of how we were going to do everything up, then it sat on some clerk's desk for a year in New York. The courts are
Oh
so
my
backed up.
goodness.
So during that process, I paid everything off. My parents thankfully were able to take care of my kids, and they told me, they're like, we're not going to give you one red cent, but we'll help you take care of the
Nice.
boys. They were like,
That's
you
nice.
do what you got to do, and we will take care of them, and they'll give them dinner and whatever, so I could work.
Wow.
So I just busted my hump and I got out there and I did this. But it was those negative thoughts I initially had back on the ferry that I
Right.
was able
Right.
to turn around and really challenge them. And that's the work that I do oftentimes with my clients now,
Right.
especially when women especially carry
Right.
so many negative thoughts with them. So when they're going through these transition times and they're like, I don't know, I think I want to start a business, or maybe I want to go back to school, but how do I do that? I'm like, you can
Right.
do anything. You can do anything you put your mind to. You
Right.
just have to believe in yourself.
Right.
If you could believe in yourself,
So
that's
right.
half the battle.
Right. Now,
So,
yeah, Karen, a lot of people suffer from PTSD or CPTSD. Is there a difference just for
yes.
awareness?
Yep.
Can you explain that, please? And
Sure.
also, is it you're born with it? I know a lot of things it's based on trauma, like when you experience trauma in your life, but like inform everybody more because sometimes they need a label on what they're actually feeling.
So that question is so multifaceted, and I could write a thesis on it. So,
The basic
yeah,
doesn't like the basic.
PTSD It's really one-time event. So it's a car accident, it's war, it's a medical emergency, it's big
Okay.
items, Hurricane Sandy, 9/11, big events like
So a
that.
trauma in your
That's
life.
trauma.
Okay.
That's PTSD trauma.
Okay.
Then you have complex PTSD, and that's more trauma within the relationship. It's a little bit more nuanced. Like I said, in my parents' situation and my situation, no one ever would look at me as a kid and be like, oh, that kid's abused. Let's call Child Protective Services. It
Okay.
was the little messages that I got that made me think, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Right? So those different things in the relationship. So let's say you have a dad who works every day to 7 o'clock and you have soccer practice every
Right.
Wednesday at
Right.
4, and dad's not able to make those soccer practices. A kid can internalize that as my dad's job is more important to him than I
Yes.
am.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
He doesn't want to come see my soccer because he doesn't care about me. Whereas adults, we know I have to work to make money, so I
Right.
can't be
Sure.
at every event. So
got
it's
it.
those little nuances. And it can be other things. It can be physical abuse as a child, emotional abuse, those, where kids always getting hit, a kid is always getting name calls. It could fall under that umbrella too for complex PTSD. So there is a lot wrapped up in complex PTSD. Now,
Are any of them born? You're born with it.
that's what I'm going to get to
Okay.
next. That is what we call intergenerational trauma. This is where I really get excited. So bear with me as I go into
No,
geek mode.
go.
Okay. So neuroscience shows us, they've done studies on this. If a woman is pregnant with a female baby at the time a trauma happens, not only does it impact on the baby,
Right.
it impacts because the female baby already has eggs in its uterus as a baby in the mother's womb. The trauma impacts on the eggs. So trauma can be passed down 3 generations, and it happens in men too. They can be passed down
They're
in men
carrier
too.
too.
So that's what we call intergenerational trauma. And
Right.
yes, it can be hereditary. They've done this test on mice. So they have exposed a mouse to a smell that the mouse doesn't like.
Right.
And then that mouse went on to have babies, and then those babies went on to have grandbaby mice.
Yes.
And those grandbaby mice still have the traumatic memory of the grandfather mouse being exposed to that smell that they don't like. So neuroscience has proven that
Yes.
this stuff it does get passed down generationally. And that's why I love it. So many people, there's such a stigma around therapy and getting help for this stuff, but we are basing it more and more and more in science. So I get all geeked out. I get super excited about that because they're developing more and more therapeutic approaches that we can bring to our clients.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nowadays, especially this series that I started, you're my seventh guest because I met everybody this week because I'm off, so I did all my pre-recording this week. The different strategies that each individual, each guest that went in my show presented so many strategies to overcome childhood trauma, and it's amazing because, well, you know what I like nowadays, Karen? A lot of people are moving towards more therapeutic, more natural, more long term, which is internally. You know what I mean? Just going internally because that's more long term for me. Yes, you can get relief when you take medications, but how long are you going to take medication for, especially when you did say that it's based on genetics or you were born with it? So how long can a medicine last? Right?
Yeah, some people are on medications their whole lives. Other people don't want to be on the medications. They kind of go back and forth with it.
Right.
In my work with my clients, I pull a lot of somatic work, which is what's happening in your body. What's the sensations that you're feeling? Because that's our clue that whether it's anxiety or the trauma that's there. And so how do we move childhood trauma or complex PTSD or even big traumas like 9/11, Hurricane Sandy? How do we move that out of our central nervous system? We know trauma lives in our central nervous systems. It lives in our body. So we got to move past it. We got to work it through our system in order to process the emotional piece with that trauma memory and link them together so that they could file away in our brains
Wow.
in the right way so it's not as painful to recall these memories.
Now that's a lot of learning.
Yeah.
Now, no, I'm a teacher. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
teacher of regulars in a regular program and special needs program, and I did. I know I remember mentioning in your bio that you do have two children,
Yes.
special needs children.
Yes.
I'm just curious, like, um, do you think you're having CPTSD? Because you did say it takes three
Mm-hmm.
generations that can
Mm-hmm.
affect
Yep.
your children. Do you think that there's really a big possibility that CPT, see, I'm so sorry, CPSD, whatever, can affect, but manifest it in a different way on children?
I don't think it causes the special needs. Like
Okay, all right.
my one son is ADHD, my other son has
Okay,
another
all right.
neurological
Okay.
condition. So I don't think it makes
Wait,
that.
what's your
But
other son? ADHD, and the other one has.
he has dyspraxia, which is another neurological condition that
Okay.
affects the way that the neurons carry messages to his brain.
So is
So
it
his
more cognitive?
he's very smart. He's very smart that way. It's more like he's very. They used to call him like klutzy kids. Like they would be
Okay.
labeled as klutzy. He's
Okay.
very uncoordinated.
Okay.
Like if
So
you've
like
thrown a ball at
spatial,
him,
his
yeah,
spatial
spatial stuff.
awareness is
Yeah,
affected. Okay.
yeah.
Like,
So with his stuff, so I don't think it causes that, but it definitely in other areas
all
impacts
right.
on them,
Okay.
and I see that in them, and I know my family history. That's why when you're working with any therapist, they should be taking a family history three
Yes.
generations back because we're
Yes.
looking for all these patterns because it's going to play out in what you're presenting as in the room with the therapist in that moment. So I know from looking at my mom's background, my dad's background, my grandparents' background, my kids' background, I get four generations to look at. I could see it playing some stuff playing out with my kids, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, but I'm like, that's future therapist problem. Let her fix that.
And the importance of that is if you are aware of your generational, not curse, difficulties or
Yeah.
struggles or illness or whatever, you can be proactive
Yes.
moving forward, especially
Yeah.
when you're actually pregnant. Then do some self care, take care
Yes.
of your body so that at least you can limit the chances of getting something from from like something genetics, right?
Intergenerational.
You know,
What we self care always needs to be practiced. Too many people in this
yes.
day and age are always in a rush, and people don't stop to slow down and take care of themselves. So on my website, I have a self-care guide, not just for moms. And not only are they things that you could do at home, because that's important. There are things that you could do at home, that's important. But they're also I have listed the benefits that your kids will see by you practicing these 10 different types of self-care.
Right, right.
So that because a lot of moms are like, I'm busy
Nice.
doing this, I'm busy doing that. I feel guilty if I'm not with my kids. You could practice self care with your kids. You could do meditations with your kids.
Right.
You can read a book with your kids. Like there's so many different things that are self care. So self care is always important, and we got to make time for that.
I am so 100% agreeing with you
Yeah.
because I myself had to go through a full self-care journey. My husband passed away 2023, and life challenges, defining moments really change you as a person. And we've been married, we were married 17 years.
I'm
He's
so
been
sorry.
ill,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like a New Yorker, like a New Yorker, right? Italian New Yorker. He's been, that stubbornness of Italian. That, oh, it's a minor setback, but then he has complications over a lot of things because of he had a heart attack at the age
Mm-hmm.
of 37, which
Oh
really
wow.
damaged what 40%. No, 40% of his heart was functioning at the age of 37. Six
Wow.
four guy, right? He
Mm-hmm.
owned his, he built luxury homes, like he was a contractor, but then all of a sudden that really changed him. So we were married for 17 years. I changed myself because I had to take care of, you know, it
Yeah.
wasn't a normal family life because he wasn't really there for vacation, or,
Mm-hmm.
I had to drive him physically to the best doctors, and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So, like when he passed away, I kind of lost myself during our marriage, and at the same time, the grief of like, oh my goodness, I'm alone now. So I literally went on a self care journey when I literally just didn't like myself anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for a year, I didn't go to work. I've been in the field of education for 30 years. I literally just took care of myself. How? Exactly what you said. Physically took care of
Yes.
myself. I was a little heavy, went on a weight loss journey, just holistic, just going to the
Mhm.
gym and
Yes.
eating healthier.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I was doing, I just started to quiet my thought, because you know
Mhm.
how our thoughts are so busy. I didn't realize I was meditating, and I
Yeah.
loved it. It just gave me a sense of like peace when I close my eyes and not worry about anything, put my phone away because I was so and I didn't know that was meditation. I
Yeah.
started liking everything that I do at the moment. I realized it was mindfulness.
Yes.
And then I started walking, like
Mhm.
even in my garden or at the park, grounding yourself. So I
Yes.
finally learned to love me and enjoy those things that really develop my mental, emotional, and spiritual being. I've never felt so closer to my being, my God. We all
Mhm.
have our own source. And you know what, Karen? No, I realized without you loving yourself, it's gonna be hard to handle other things.
Absolutely.
Eh,
Absolutely. There's so much in that because so one, I'm sorry about your husband. That
Thank
had
you.
to be horrible. But it sounds like you handled it in a really healthy way. And there's some things, some therapists out there will be like, if you have a therapist who only recommends diet and exercise to change your life, like they don't know what they're talking about. Actually, again, getting back to the neuroscience, exercise and dieting and getting enough sleep and taking care of yourself in that way
That's the
are really,
best.
they're the best because exercise releases serotonin, it releases dopamine. Those are all the feel good hormones. So whereas anxiety is releasing adrenaline and cortisol, which are the bad hormones,
Right.
exercise is releasing the feel good hormones. So why would you not do that for yourself?
Yes.
And movement is so important. I don't care. I tell people, I don't care what you do. I don't need you to like, you don't need to be an athlete. You don't need to be an athlete to move
Agree.
your body. You could go for a walk. You could do some stretching. You could go for a walk. You could do some stretching. You could do anything just to move your body a little bit every day. That's all it takes. And then the rest of it, making sure you're eating right, making sure you're sleeping at night. If you're not sleeping, looking at why am I not sleeping? Is my
Right, right,
anxious thoughts
right.
getting in the way? Is
Yes.
something medical happening? So we got to look at all that. But I told you I lost over 100 pounds, and it was through that
Yes.
5-year divorce process. I did not want to be around my husband. So I joined a $10 gym, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I started there, and I literally was like, all right, let me try and figure this out. And I just went just to get out of the
Right,
house. It was a
right.
cheap place that I could go to kind of take care of myself. And over the course of that, little by little, I was losing 10 pounds. I lost 15 pounds, and like it just builds up.
Wow.
And I lost at one point 125 pounds just by watching what I was eating, making sure I was eating healthy, and going to the gym. And I loved my body at that point, and that helped build my confidence, and as well as overcoming all the financial stuff. It just built my confidence up, build my confidence up, because I didn't think I could ever lose that weight. And here it is,
Right.
I did that. I didn't think I could ever build my business, and here it is, I did that. So that just helps build your confidence up and makes you feel good and helps just undo all those negative messages.
I'm gonna step up what you said, what worked with mine too.
Mhm.
When you want your mental well-being, sometimes letting go of people that no longer serve you,
Yes.
people that are just so negative and toxic in my life. I'm
Mhm.
so limited now with the people that I really collaborate with and
Mhm.
talk with on a daily basis, because I've learned to value my energy,
Mhm.
my I finally have peace in my mind. So why will I let other people
Take that.
again influence me? Let me heal first on my own, and
Mhm.
this is my way of helping others through this podcast. I share every day on my social media about
Mhm.
just positivity and motivation, because in life, the best way to really face life is when you're so positive.
Absolutely.
Right? It's just
Absolutely.
I don't think anything can pull me down right now because of like the positivity that I found by
Yeah.
just loving myself and saying no to situation or people that will bring me down. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean I'm rude to them or what, but then I can't let them also affect me.
Yep. Yep. That's what we call boundaries. And
Yes. Yes.
actually, at the beginning of your podcast, you introduced yourself as an inspiring author. And I totally get that because I'm there now too.
Yes.
And one of the things that I'm writing about is the power of the word no. No
Nice.
is
I
an
love that. Boundaries.
incredible,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all about boundaries and telling yourself, like, no, I'm not going to allow that person in right now, or I'm not going to let their negativity in right now. And that is a form of self care. That is absolutely
That
taking
is
care of
amazing
yourself.
for others to know.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That it's okay. Don't feel guilty saying no.
To anybody or anything.
No is strength.
Even if someone is depressed and laying in bed, they could turn around and say, no, I'm not going to give in to my depression right now. And even
Yes.
if getting out of the bed and walking to the kitchen is all you could accomplish today, that's an accomplishment.
Baby step. Baby
Baby
step.
step it. That's an
Oh my
accomplishment.
God.
You did
I
that.
love
Now set
that.
your next goal. What's next? Now you're going to go to the kitchen and you're going to make yourself a healthy meal. Even if that is a piece of fruit and some eggs, that's an accomplishment. So you got to start where you're at, set
Yes.
small, manageable goals, and go from there. And the other thing that's very important with self care is practicing gratitude,
Oh
not just for
yes.
the
Oh
material
yes.
things, but for the people that are in our lives that encourage us, the people in our lives that support us, and the personality traits that we carry. What are your own individual gifts that you
Yes.
carry?
Yes.
And even if you think, I don't have anything, ask somebody else. What do you
Yes.
like about me? Why are you in
Yes.
my
Oh
life?
my God. It's amazing what I have a full episode on my podcast about simply intentional gratitude.
Yep.
On a daily basis, if you
Yep.
have like your planner with you, what are you going to, so it's on my daily planner. I
Mm-hmm.
have what are my goals for today, because
Yep.
you and I are busy. We
Yep.
need at and in towards the end, how will I celebrate it? It could
Mm-hmm.
be ice cream, it could be
Yep.
like a simple sushi, or and also gratitude, simply saying think, just wake, oh my God, Karen, I wake up
Yep.
thinking my God, for just a beautiful night and
Yes.
smiling. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And like I didn't have whatever, didn't have a bad day. Like I wake up literally happy and smile. My kids are like, Mom, it's too early. Okay. I just I just like I could get up and just dance or sing.
Yeah.
It's just my energy. And part of it is because I'm grateful for my life. I'm
Yes.
grateful for me. And I
Yep.
hope people come to a point in their life wherein they can say, I love me. I'm grateful for who I am. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to be other people. I am myself.
Exactly. And
Right?
there's no
Never
greater gift.
compare.
There's no greater gift than who you are that you bring to the
Yes.
world. Like, and people need to appreciate that about themselves. And that's not narcissistic, it's not egocentric. It's
No.
literally just believing in yourself and believing in what you bring to people. And oftentimes I'll ask my clients, like, what would your sister say about you? What would your
Uh
friends
huh.
say about you? And what would you say about your friend? If your friend was in this situation, what would you say to them? Like, what would you think they'd want to hear? And
Right.
they're able to be super kind. And I'm like, why can't you do that to yourself?
Yes. Yes.
Let's look at that. What
Yeah,
stops you from
don't
doing that for
people
yourself?
please
Yeah.
yourself first.
Yes.
Because like based on what you just shared, we have a habit of how we want others to perceive us, and
Yes.
we lose ourselves in the process because it's not who we are as a person.
Exactly.
And Karen, you know what what my final destination was. Look, self-care is a lifelong journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's never ending, right? But you know where my path led me because of this self-care journey, Karen? I found my authenticity.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is authenticity? I know I keep talking about this in my podcast because it is so wonderful, because I don't know anyone who don't have struggles in their life, who don't have defeats or trauma. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're able to embrace those things that happen to you and make it part of you,
Yeah.
move on, or like just make you stronger. Like I don't think you're here in front of me if you weren't able to pass through, or what that overcome whatever
Yeah.
challenges you had. You did. That's
Yeah.
why you're here. And that for me is authenticity. When you can finally say, that happened to me, that's over. I am learning to just make it part of you.
Yeah.
And now you and I sharing it to others. That's
And
stepping up the authenticity for me.
part of that is looking at, okay, I know what I brought to that in order to overcome that, and I'm going to keep
Yes.
pulling from that because that's going to help me moving forward. That's part of that resiliency. But then
Yes.
also recognizing, what did I learn from that I don't want to do again?
Right, right.
And with trauma, like we talk about trauma as if it's this big horrible thing.
It
There
could be
are
anything,
But
right?
there are a lot of positives out of it. Like a lot of type A
Yes.
people are people who have some sort of trauma in their life. A lot of marathon people who run marathons, they have that endurance because they've overcome so many other things in their life that they're able
Yes.
to do that. So if we look at it, we do learn positive things from our trauma. We do take some
Yes.
positives away from it, and then we're able to turn around and expand on that. And I'll share, like during COVID was a horrible time for
It
everybody.
was.
Depression, anxiety, people were dying. It was horrific. It was the best time for me and my kids because
Okay,
during
good.
that time, I was divorced already. My kids were still struggling with the divorce, moving out of our family home. There was a lot of emotion going on. But it was the first time where I got to be a stay-at-home mom with them. It was
Okay.
the first time they were able to see me work. It was the first time I knew exactly what was going on in their classes because everything was remote. It brought such a relationship to us that we had nothing to do. Where were we going? It was COVID. The world was shut down. We spent time talking together. We spent time playing Monopoly together. We spent time playing video games together. It really brought the three of us that much closer to each other. So even like looking at the trauma of COVID, we were able to kind of look at that and take some positives away from it.
Yeah, but
There's
Karen,
always
there
positives.
could be a person exactly what you said on the same situation, exact situation that you said, but would have taken it on a different path.
Yeah.
It's just, what's nice is you're able to look at the positive things of being at home, but not everybody has that ability.
Nope.
Not
Nope.
everybody has the thing. They keep like just attracting the negative,
Yeah.
feeling sorry. And I'm gonna ask you because I know you talk about negative self-talk.
Yeah.
We're gonna dive deep into that. People are just so attracted to like not being good enough, like everything is like complaining. Now negative self-talk and internalized messages from past wounds can
Yeah.
create deep seated limiting beliefs, right? Now
Yes.
have you past experiences influence your mindset,
Mhm.
and what steps did you take to break free from those patterns? Or maybe talk about how you are using your career right now
Yeah.
in order to fight negative self-talk.
A lot of the negative self-talk, what I do, whether for myself or even with the clients that I have, is I challenge those thoughts.
Okay.
Like,
All right.
where did you get that thought from? And I ask my clients this all the time. When was the first time you remember having that thought about yourself? Like, at what point in your life? What was going on then? And most of the time they'll be like, oh, I was a teenager. Or, oh, I was like middle school age, like
Wow.
10 to 13 years old. And I'm like, well, where do you think you got that message from at that point in your life? Like, that's kind of a young age. Where did you get
Yes.
that from? And once we're able to look at that, and it's like, oh, well, my dad didn't get to my soccer games every Friday, so he must not have cared about me. And I'm like, really? Like, let's look at that a little bit more. Do you think your dad really didn't care about you?
Yeah,
Like,
there was
like,
yeah.
like what else might have been going on there? And I tell people our parents did the best that they could with what they had in those moments. So we have to kind of look at that a little bit. But then we also have to remember that might have been stuff that it was based on their experiences.
Yes,
That
yes.
doesn't mean it's based on who we are now as adults. We get the power to think differently, to change ourselves. So you mentioned gratitude journals. One of the things that I work with my clients on is thinking about what do they feel most thankful for with the gratitude journals. What do people think about themselves? What positives do they have about themselves? When was a positive time where somebody else gave them a positive?
Right, right.
What was happening then? Write it down because that's evidence that those negative thoughts aren't true. We're looking for evidence. Like, what's the evidence? The other work that I do is what's coming up in your body right now. What does
Um,
that feel like?
Karen, let's talk about negative self-talk. Maybe perhaps the way you deal with your clients, or maybe the way you handle yourself negative self-talk. Can you explain, share with us?
Sure. So oftentimes when people have those negative self talks, they go back to their childhood.
Okay.
So I ask my clients often, when was the first time that you remember having that message? And
Okay.
usually they'll go back to teenage years or even middle school and maybe even a little bit younger. So where did that message come from? And oftentimes what we realize is that that message was prescribed to us, whether by a parent, a teacher, a caregiver,
Yeah.
a bully at school. That message was prescribed to us by somebody else based on their own experiences.
Okay.
Those experiences aren't us, they're
Right.
not our experiences, and that isn't who we are now as adults. So, what can we be grateful for about ourselves
Yes.
now? Even
Yes.
if it's something small, and even if people struggle, especially people with depression, struggle with coming up with that. My life is shit. I'm not good at anything. I can't be successful. All of those negative messages. And I'm like, when was the time you did feel successful? Was it taking a test in school that you got 100 on? Was it
Yes.
helping a friend with something and you did a project with a friend, moving or building something? Did that feel successful to you? What builds success? What feels success? And what did you do in that moment when you felt successful? What helped? What got you through
Yes.
that? And looking at those in order to build on that going forward to change those negative messages.
Right. You know what? Just you explaining all those things, like you're always mentioning what happened to me in the past
Yeah.
when you were a teenager, when you were a child. You know what? As I'm an educator,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just listening to you and, just looking at life in general, I realize how a person becomes who they are because of their past. No matter, we keep saying our past doesn't define it, it does define
Yeah.
us. If
Yeah.
I am the head of the Department of Education, I will not revamp. I will add to the program really deep understanding, lesson on social emotional learning. Make it
Yes.
part of an everyday curriculum,
Yeah.
because like there's so much stress in school right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
all about testing, it's all about like being at par with the world global, but are you really helping the students, um intentionally teaching them those skills on fighting, what you said, the limiting beliefs, because it happens even in childhood. Even
Yes.
when you're 4, you
Yes.
go through life experiences that literally affects you on a day-to-day basis. So
Mm-hmm.
fine, like I said, if I have that power to really add to the curriculum, worldwide, I will add social emotional
Yes.
learning. It is part, but not all teachers are using it, and
The
it's
other
not a big
the
thing.
But the other problem with that is the way that the school systems, and I don't know about Florida, but talking in New York, the way that they use mental health clinicians. I could get on another
In a
whole
school,
so
or you're talking about in a school setting?
in a school setting. They don't utilize social workers in the right way. They don't utilize it's just not, they don't know what they're doing. They don't have the right level of supervision in the schools. So it really doesn't it's a disaster the way they try and roll it out, honestly.
And
I've
who
seen
are
it
the
with my own kids. I've
yeah,
seen it with other clinicians that I know. Very few social workers in the school are licensed clinical social workers.
okay, yeah.
They're licensed master's level social workers, and they're not getting the right supervision that they need in order to learn how to help kids. So it's just a shortcoming because of budgetary
Oh
reasons
yeah, I was
or
just gonna say
regulatory
that. Yeah.
reasons. And until that is redone, that social emotional stuff at school is never going to adequately be addressed. And that's a big problem.
Well, yeah, because the psychologists and the social workers in school, there's probably one in one building for each,
Yeah,
and they're so busy with 504s, with
yeah.
IT.
IEPs.
It's all paperwork, it's all the
Yeah,
housekeeping. And when a child actually needs help,
yeah,
it's always there's no time.
yeah,
There's no time. So they really have to, like, as an educator myself, you really need to put social emotional learning program in
yeah,
place. This will fight the mental illness because
mhm,
everything starts as a child.
yeah,
Okay? And can I tell you something? I did leave the profession after 30 years because of this change. I wanted
mhm,
to, this change. Part of my self-care was changing career. And I cannot leave the profession because I'm a teacher at heart.
Yeah.
Okay, I have the degree to be an admin. I was supposed to be an assistant principal in here in Florida. I owned my schools in the Philippines, so part of me will never leave. A big part of me will never leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I came up with, I'm still on the planning stage. I came up with a global education consulting
Oh wow.
where I am here to empower educators worldwide of what
Mm-hmm.
I know. And the big part of what I want to be my program, now I can do whatever I want because it's
Yep.
my program, right?
Yep.
It's my it's my movement, it's my business. And a big part of it is really social emotional learning,
Yep.
not just for students, for teachers. I'm helping empowering teachers through
Yep.
digital courses, through keynote talk, professional development. Because who teaches these kids? The teachers.
Yep.
They need to be mentally, emotionally, physically well
But the
themselves
big
first.
part of that is specifically for boys because boys need to be socialized in our society that there's more feelings than just anger and aggression. Right now, adult men, that's usually when they come into therapy, they're like, well, I'm angry all the time. There's so much more going on inside of
Wow.
them other
Wow.
than anger. But in our society, that's how we socialize boys. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to say what your feelings are.
Yes.
And that message is damaging because boys then don't know how to express their feelings, how to work
Yes.
through their feelings. So we have to destigmatize mental health across all the boards altogether, because and especially for men, and especially going back to first responders. So many first responders, they're exposed to so much trauma at work. They see so many different
Yes.
things
Yes.
that they're not able they're afraid to come in and get the help for it, because if they get the help for it, they might be let go. If their job finds out, they won't be able to be a cop, they won't be able to be a fireman, they won't be able to be EMS. And so there's a lot of fear around accessing services, and we need to normalize that, and we need to make it just as normal to go to a doctor once a year for a physical, to be in therapy every week to work on all this stuff.
Yeah, but you know what? That's why one of my keynote talk really is fighting burnout, because I
Yes.
see burnout everywhere. No matter what industry you are in,
Mhm.
it happens because it's just like you don't have time to like breathe. You
Yeah.
see every things happen on a routine that you're like just sucked in, like I have to do this because it's part of my job. I have to, like, you kind of lose yourself in the process. That's why
Yes.
one of the big lesson for them when I give my keynote talk is self-care.
Right. Absolutely.
That's one
Absolutely.
of
It's
like
so
the
important.
five main lessons that I offer in my keynote talk
Yeah.
on fighting burnout is really self-care. You need to find yourself. Only
Yeah.
you can find yourself and make your environment positive for you.
Absolutely. And whatever that means, whatever
Whatever
you
that
enjoy.
means.
And self care could just be, I'm going to go get coffee with a friend and we're going to spend the afternoon talking as we walk through the park. That is self care. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it
No.
just is that time. And another thing that people could do, it takes 2 minutes, is every day just to sit with yourself somewhere, take some deep breaths, feel
Right.
that breath move through your body, and
Yes.
just remind yourself,
Ground
I am
yourself with
okay
nature.
right
Yeah.
now. Yep.
Yes.
That little
Positive
mantra.
affirmation.
Yep.
Positive affirmation.
Absolutely. It
Oh my.
plays so much into feeling better and feeling refreshed and being able to go. And the other thing with a lot of these jobs that we're talking about, and a lot of this with burnout, is really a work life balance.
Yes.
So many
Yes.
people just keep giving and giving and giving
Yes.
and giving. And then
Yes.
at some point, the bowl that you're giving from is going to be empty. It just is. We got to keep replenishing that bowl.
That cup. Yeah, your
So
cup is empty. Yes.
we got to really keep practicing that self care.
And a lot of the individuals nowadays, employees, teachers, or whoever, are bringing their issues from a school, from work to home. They
Yeah.
don't know that balance that you and I are talking about. Like sometimes it's not being selfish. After 5 o'clock, you are now a mom.
Yes.
Try to forget your role as a teacher, which is
Yeah.
so hard for teachers. i
Yes.
i was a victim of that. I kept bringing home work, and like parents, I'm on the phone with a parent because like of you know what I mean, like issues with a child. So sometimes that boundary and balance work life balance really matter, and that's also part of my keynote talk. Just giving them little strategies, baby
Hmm.
steps,
Yep.
because it's not easy. It's
Yep.
not easy.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you were to drop dead at that job, they would replace you sooner than
Yeah,
anything.
you are a number.
Your number, you're replaceable. To your kids, you're not replaceable. You
Right,
know what I
right.
mean? Like, you need to focus on that as much as you can, and work life balance. If you're done at 6 o'clock at night, don't log in at 6:05.
Yes.
Don't check your email. Don't respond to emails. If your boss sends you an email at 9 o'clock at night, you are not obligated to return that email. Do not return that email. Wait till the morning. It's okay. And people don't feel like it's okay.
Okay, I am a victim of that. I am guilty of that. Okay, so 30 years of teaching. When
Mhm.
school starts at 8:30, I'm in school at 6 o'clock,
Yeah.
6:30, because I love working. I'm a workaholic.
Hmm.
Okay. When my husband died at night, evening, where
Hmm.
was I the next day?
Oh no,
I went to school.
you didn't take that time for yourself.
No, to leave lesson plan because I knew I was going to be out a few days. I was
Hmm.
school at 5 in the morning because we had the key. We were
Yep,
allowed to have
yep,
the
yep,
key to open,
yep.
to leave lesson plan the next day that my husband passed away because I cared
Wow.
so much for my students.
Hmm.
And so my husband was cremated. So there's really no service,
Yeah,
because it was
yep.
cremation. And my ultimate goal was I'm in Florida, bring the urn ashes back in New York where our family plot is. So
Hmm.
there's really not no movement because I really don't have a family here and not a lot of friends in Florida because most of my friends in America are really in New York, where I lived for a few years. And after 3 days, I think 4 days or not even 1 week, I went back to school.
Wow.
And people were looking at me like, Candice, why are you here? And I'm
Hmm.
always smiling. I'm one of those people who would always smile. Like, um, they probably were looking at, I knew they were looking at me like, what's wrong with her? Like, why is she here? Why is like nothing happened? All right.
Yeah.
Until one day, my principal, after like my third, fourth, fifth day, I don't remember, called me, Candice, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. She gave her condolences and like, and she looked at me, Candice, it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
I started
That
crying.
because
Oh
you
my
needed that
God.
permission.
I was like a baby sobbing in
Hmm.
front of my principal.
Hmm.
And then I took a 5 week what's that leave? What do you call that
Yeah,
leave?
bereavement leave.
Yeah, something leave. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Like, oh
bereavement.
my, oh, no, well, in Florida you don't get paid for bereavement.
Okay.
Nothing. I didn't
Wow.
care. I took a
You needed
five
that.
week leave
Hmm.
to take care of my, and within that 5 week, what was part of that 5 week? Don't laugh at me. I moved
Oh
house
wow.
because I that was my way to like prepare for my
Hmm.
new role. My house was so huge with just two kids with me. I have one child who was away, out of the house already. The house was big, financially overwhelming. I don't think I
Yeah.
could have afforded it for with like a Florida teacher. I'm sorry, it's true. Florida teacher salary. I left in 2 weeks, and at the same time, I could see just so many memories. You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
within that 5 week, I moved. You know how
Wow.
hard that was?
Oh, that's really hard.
I know. So I'm just saying that I'm part of the system. I'm part of those that get so into work that I
Hmm.
didn't prioritize myself. That's why when
Yeah.
I went to that self care, I didn't care about finances. I took time for
Yeah.
like and not went back to work. I completed the year because I
Hmm.
felt bad for my students, but I took a break from
Yeah.
work and work on myself.
That's great because it sounds like you healed.
Yes, and I can
Mhm.
totally honestly tell everyone I love myself. It's the best feeling, and I hope anybody watching this take a break. Doesn't have
Mhm.
to be 5 weeks. Take a day, two,
Yep.
three, to find yourself. What do you
Hmm.
actually want in your life? If this is your last day, Karen, are you satisfied? Let's ask them. Are you satisfied with your accomplishment? Are you satisfied with who you are as a person? Sometimes you need
Absolutely.
to like reflect on where you're at this point in your life, right? Right.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Karen, overcoming adversity requires resilience, intentionality, and a commitment to personal growth.
Hmm.
Now, What role did these factors play in helping you find your way back to yourself, rebuild your life, and now moving forward as a psychotherapist?
Yeah. So right now, my practice is thriving, which is great. I really, yeah,
Ah.
I love doing
And
that.
I
And
heard
now
you're also doing Florida telehealth.
telehealth, yeah.
Is it just Florida? I know you're based in New York. Are you just doing Florida
So, New
license
York
just in
and
Florida?
Florida.
Okay,
Right
all
now,
right.
all my clients are from New York and Florida because that's
Okay.
where my licenses are. But I'm now expanding into the podcast. I'm doing public speaking events, and I'm bringing this
Do you host
message.
your own podcast?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't post my. It's on my to-do list, but I'm
Yeah.
not there yet. So I'm really just trying to build into this because I really want people to get the message that they can believe in themselves, and if they dare to believe in themselves, they can accomplish anything they want to
Yes. Yes.
accomplish.
Ditto. Ditto.
Yeah, that just changes everything. So that's kind of the message that I'm getting out there, and just trying to help people that way.
And finding the right psychotherapist or a podcast that you can resonate with. Sometimes the resources are in front of you, especially this series on childhood trauma is
Yes.
so powerful. Like I said, I met 7 going on 8 guests this week alone, and I am in awe of all the techniques, strategies, or ways that these people overcame their struggles. And when I tell you, like, things that I've never heard before happened to them as a child, but I look at them in front of me thriving as an
Mhm.
individual and using their story to uplift others. I'm just like, I'm so glad I'm a podcast. I'm so glad I have this channel, because where can people go? Open, like, just turn on Spotify or a YouTube and find something that they can relate with, someone who actually experienced that trauma that they might have been experiencing, and it's free.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just need, go out there. There are resources everywhere. Find
It's
a psych.
almost like building a sense of community. Like, oh, someone else has gone through this. I can relate
Yes.
to what they're saying. Absolutely. That just helps people feel like, okay, maybe if they did it, maybe I could do it too.
And you know what's nice? I have this guest that I had on my other series, The Thriving as a Single Parent, and she messaged me, Candice, I have this guest for my podcast who I know will really be a good guest for your new one. And we refer each other because now we collaborate. Like, you and
Yeah.
I, this is not over. You and I are gonna collaborate. You know what I mean? So it's just really like the sense of community that you said.
Yeah.
We start to build our community by just believing that everyone has the potential to grow, to be
Hmm.
successful, and the best way is just be yourself, love
Yep.
yourself,
Be your authentic self.
right?
That's
And it's incredible when you finally reach the point of, um like, just like not doubt. Yes, is it gonna be always beautiful? No.
nope.
Life is challenging and
Yeah.
stressful, but at least you have the tools to navigate around it, because you'll encounter setbacks every day, like, right, Karen?
Right. And what I've recently adopted as another mantra for myself is that
Okay.
life is about getting handed lemons and making lemonade and sherbet. Like, we want it
I love
all. Like,
that.
we want to take the negativity and we want to have our lemonade and our lemon sherbet with it, something a little bit sweet, and just keep moving on it. Because things are always going to come up. There's always going to be
Yes.
an obstacle. Getting caught underneath the obstacle, that's the tricking part. We want to kind of sidestep the obstacle and move past it.
Quickly, I miss a part from my usual conversation. When triggers happen in your life, how do you fight it or overcome it? Just also for others to learn from
So
that.
I don't use the word triggers.
Okay,
And the
what's the
reason
best?
why is because
Tell.
I know with trauma, it's in our central nervous system. So I
Okay.
use the word activation. So when I feel an
Ooh.
activation coming, I know my body enough to know where I feel it. And so for me, it's usually up here in my chest and usually in my stomach. So I tell my clients, what's happening in your body? What are you feeling in your body? And what's the sensation there? And what feeling is that? Okay, so that people get in touch with their bodily sensations. That's how we know we're getting activated. And then I give myself that time to sit and meditate for a little while and really breathe through that sensation in my body. And I recognize myself do not take action right now. Wait for this feeling to pass. Wait to get, because all emotions are temporary. Anxiety
Right,
is
right.
temporary. Depression is temporary. It's temporary. So we want to be able to sit with it for a little while, acknowledge it, let it pass over us, and then think about, what do I want to do in this situation?
Okay,
Let
all
me
right.
make a rational decision as opposed to an emotional decision. Because
Yes.
if I
Nice.
react in an emotional state, 9 times out of 10, that's not always going to be a good thing. We really need to sit and dwell on it and think about all the different options and like, okay, which one might give me the best possible outcome? And again, remembering we make the best decision that we can in those moments. We may
Right,
not have
right.
all the information. So that can be really difficult for people. But going back, I call it an activation as opposed to a trigger, because the central nervous system is getting activated. And the best thing to do is look at it, acknowledge it, know that it's there, breathe through it, and then give yourself time and space to really think about how you want to solve that problem.
Now, I've been using the word triggers and I don't want to be negative and I don't want to add to the negativity
Yeah.
of the word. So, should I now start just using activations? Because
Go
I
ahead.
said,
I'm changing it everywhere. I just don't like the word trigger. I don't know
yeah,
why
because
I
it's
don't like that
negative in
word.
itself. It's like
Yeah.
you're what do you call that? You're by saying it, you're actually like making it more real.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like
Because what,
trigger in its sense is negative. So
right.
it's like the more you're pushing it by saying it. Okay, I don't think that makes sense. I don't know. I'm just
Because
saying.
but it does, because the more that you're using the word triggered, it's
Yes. Okay.
almost like, to me it's almost like a victim. This triggered me, and so I couldn't control it. Okay, we may not be able to control our emotions, but you could sit and dwell, like just think about it and let it roll
Yes.
over you. I use the analogy of being in the ocean. If you're in the ocean and you're bobbing with the wave and going with the wave, you're going to be okay. When you start fighting against the wave is going to wash you out.
Okay.
So when you get activated or triggered, when you get that activation, ride it. Just ride the wave. Just sit with it, acknowledge it. Yep, that's my anxiety. I know it's in my stomach. I'm going to take that deep breath, and I'm going to like remind myself, like, right now I'm okay. I'm in my office and there's nothing here endangering to me, and I'm okay right now. I might have a situation I have to make a decision on, but let me think about that when I'm feeling a little bit calmer.
And if it takes changing the narrative, changing a word, just for you to find healing, do so. Like
Yeah.
one of my guests totally changed, went through a lot as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And when she finally found herself, she changed her name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, her name's Allure Unique. You'll see her podcast, and
Mm-hmm.
it's because she finally reached that point where and she doesn't want to go back to
To
her
that other
life
persona.
and just use it as maybe life lesson. So her way is changing her name.
Yeah.
That is so wonderful. So when you actually ask somebody, so what activated you? It's just
Yeah.
it's a different way of looking at your trauma. It's
Right.
that's amazing. Like
Yeah.
you're not really like making him remember it in a negative way. You can actually use it in a positive way.
Yes.
What activated you or
Yeah.
how do you Oh my god, I like that. I like
Because
that.
when it activates you, it's taking action, and then you could take an action.
Yes, it's more
Whereas
proactive.
triggering is more, I think, of a victim mentality in my
Yes.
mind. It has that connotation. And so we don't want it that you're the victim of the trigger, right? Oh, I didn't mean to get in that fight with you. I was triggered when you did this. You're putting yourself in that victim role. We don't want to be the victim. We
Okay.
want to be able to overcome it and move past it and make our own decisions. We got to own the decisions that we make and kind of be able to move past that.
And it kind of is part of negative self-talk too. If you'll say
Yes.
trigger, it's like oh, like it's still negative, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. That's something
You're
we
welcome.
all learn. We are alive. We're all lifelong learners, and we learn from each other. That's one thing I learned from you. Thank you. I love that.
Great.
Activate.
Thank you.
Oh, this activated me, and it's so like, oh, I got activated. Oh. It's just a new way of
Yeah,
looking at things. And
exactly.
when I share this podcast, specifically this one, I'm going to introduce the word activate to my
Awesome.
followers. You know what I
I
mean?
love that.
And make it viral. I'm just joking. But yeah,
Hashtag
but it is
activated.
true.
Yep.
Change the narrative, change your story, change
Yep.
who you are if in order to find that peace. You know what I
And the
mean?
healing. Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh my God, I hate to say goodbye. All right. This is one question that I ask every guest that I've
Sure.
had in my show. If there is, you've said so many wonderful lessons already. If there is one, maybe a concept, a quote, or a topic that you want the viewers to remember you with, or
Mhm.
like what is your strongest point that you want to share, what would that be, Karen?
Dare to believe in yourself.
Oh, I love that.
If you believe in yourself, nothing will stop you. And if you encounter an obstacle, how am I going to work around this obstacle? How am I going to get over it? But I'm not going to stop.
I love
Yeah.
that. I like, and it's all based on personal experiences. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Nothing is like you have to go find it. Sometimes it's just in front of you, baby
Yep.
steps, baby steps if you have to. If
Baby steps are
Karen
the best way.
if Karen did it, Candice did it. You know what? Anyone can do it. We're
Yep.
not we're not like extra special. We're
Nope.
like regular human beings with daily struggles in life. But we were able to like fight or like overcome whatever we did, right?
Absolutely.
And during this conversation, it's really more about like what we said, the authenticity, the self care, and loving yourself. It's that
Mhm.
simple.
Absolutely.
Hard for others, but it's really that simple. You know what I mean? All right. So, Karen, I just want to thank you for your vulnerability and wisdom today. Before we wrap up, how can our listeners find you? And do you have anything that you'd like to share, like a book or something to promote while you're here?
Sure. So the best way to get a hold of me is through my website, kdtesorero.lcsw.net. I'm also on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, so you can find me there. And if you want to log into my website, I have a 10-step self-care guide that people could do at home. So they're all low-cost things that people could do. And if you have kids, it talks about how those self-care steps will benefit the
Wow.
children.
Can
Yeah.
I share separately that the self care that you just
Yes.
said on a separate when I publish this podcast, because that's
Absolutely.
that's really really. And then I when I publish this, I share it on multiple pages. I will
Mhm.
ask directly all your links so that when they want to connect with you, it's shared. They just click and they go directly
Awesome.
to you. Okay.
Great.
um so, what about others? If you want to know more about me, my website is www.candiceruggiero.com. I speak at conferences, convention, professional development, workshop. I talk about authenticity, resilience, intentionality, leadership, empowerment, and burnout, and other things. Um, and social media, I'm all over social media. Linktree/Candice Ruggiero, and any other thing before we wrap up. Do you have anything
Just
to?
one quick note. If you are
Okay.
struggling in some way, do not be afraid to reach out to a therapist.
Yes. And
Get the
sometimes
mental
don't
health.
don't be afraid to say that you need help.
Need help. Yeah.
You are your own. Let me just you are your own investment. You have to invest on yourself. If because you are your greatest investment. You know what I mean? And success and growth will follow if you finally reach the point wherein that investment is, although I forgot, like whatever, that investment was successful, everything else will follow. That's you.
Absolutely.
And I want to leave again, everyone, your trauma does not define you. Your
Mhm.
past does not write your future. You do. And I know firsthand how easy it is to feel like the pain will consume you, like
Mhm.
you never fully heal. But I also know that you can take that pain and transform it into something powerful. You can honor everyone by starting with yourself, and you can let go of whatever that happens to you again by starting with yourself. Okay,
Mhm.
you can take the lessons from your struggles and use them to create a future that is filled with purpose, passion, and resilience. Thank you, Karen. I,
Thank you.
I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Tessorero.
Sorry.
It's okay. Yep.
Tesorero. Okay.
Tessorero.
Uh,
Yep.
thank you so much, and please connect with her. It's okay to admit that sometimes you need help, and she has a lot of strategies to help you. And sometimes, yeah, invest on yourself. Again, until the next time, keep striving for intentional excellence. Have a good evening, Karen, and have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.